Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. Today I'm going to paint you a simple seascape, and this came about from the last video that I put up with the roses where I showed you how to paint using thicker white into the front of the rose to create more interest really quickly. I'm going to show you, I had a question off of there from a lady that said, can you use that in seascapes as well for like foam and clouds and all that kind of stuff? Yes, you can. Consistency of our paints is very important for us as artists, and we have that thickening agent, what we call a rheology modifier. That thickening agent we can add to the acrylics to get some really neat effects. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the majority of the painting is going to be done with my painting knife. This is a painting knife. A palette knife is flat, a painting knife has a Z bend, and a large brush, mostly with the painting knife though. I want to show you some thick and thin painting techniques with these brushes and the knife, okay? So what I have here is just a real long landscape type of board here. And it is almost 18 inches this way. It's right about 17, almost 18, and then 12 inches this way. So it's really long in landscape. And I'm just going to do a simple seascape here. Put some clouds right up here, just a simple beach scene with some waves, just so you can get an idea. It's a good thing just to practice, okay? So I got the board and I prepped it with one coat of the canvas prep medium, and then I sanded it lightly with 180 grit sandpaper, so it's a matte surface but slightly smooth, so that'll work really great for us. Let's get into it, okay? So my colors that I have out here, I have my normal YouTube palette that I paint with. I put out some of the open medium as well. This gives you a thicker, more longer working time. The extender medium here, which works with the Heritage Acrylics, and it will thin the colors out. So we'll be using that. It'll thin the colors out and give you a longer working time. I also, this time, to the palette added one color. This is the medium white, and you've seen me use this from time to time. The medium white, you can look right down here at the numbers and it tells you how we made it. It is made with PW6, which is titanium white, PBR7, which is burnt umber, and PY42, which is a yellow oxide. So it's white with a touch of burnt umber and a touch of yellow oxide. But we make it as a pre-made color, really easy. I like to use that sometimes into skies and clouds and everything, and it's just a beautiful value 7. It's a value 7 color, okay? So let's go in here. Now first what I'm going to do is establish my horizon line. And if you make it mostly, for all of you that are beginning into seascapes, if you drop your horizon line down lower, you make it more about the sky. If you drop your horizon line, raise it up a little bit, you make it more about the waves and water. So if you want to make more interest in waves and water and stuff, raise the horizon line up to here, give you a compressed down your sky, and you can have a great thing. I don't like cutting it exactly in half. I'm going to paint some beautiful clouds up here, and I am going to do a few waves and stuff. So I'm going to drop my horizon line down just a bit. I'm just going to take a brush. This is a number 8 flat. I'm going to take and I'm just going to add my horizon line. I'm going to take a little bit of Phthalo Blue, a little bit of burnt sienna, which drops its intensity. Let's lighten that just a touch. You can start any kind of color. You've seen me do this before. Now this is just a big yardstick that I got from the Home Depot, and I cut off a little board on the end and then put a screw in on the end, and this allows me to make a nice horizontal line. So I'll come up here and so I'll leave a little bit more, not quite exactly in half. I'll leave a little bit more into the sky, and I'm just going to hold my brush, and run it here right against the edge of this, just like that. And boom, I have my horizon line. Now there's a lot of other artists out there that use tape and stuff like that, and that can work. I'm going to end up blurring this horizon line so it doesn't really make too much a difference, but I will look at that, and I'm a little bit higher than I am, just a little bit higher into the sky than I am into the water. And if you want, you can just follow up this line here with just another little mark of color here. We'll just mark this down this way here until we get over towards our beach and stuff here. We'll just put on a little color here and preserve that. I'm going to blur this out, but I just want to show you, how you can preserve your line if you want to keep a sharper, because sometimes in some seascapes we keep a sharper line. But that's one way to quickly do it and judge, and I can just slide my board up if I decide I want to make it more about the sky, about the water, and drop it down if I want to make it more about the sky. And I'm just starting out with this painting with some of the brushes, and I'm going to switch over to the knife in just a little bit, and you'll see why. Just for interest and practice. This is the idea of this entire lesson today is practice, okay? So into the sky, now we know into good skies, unless you're in the evening and stuff, that's a little bit different, but we got a nice light. If we're in like a nice summer day here or something like that, it'll be lighter along the horizon line, darker as it goes up here. And so I'm just going to mix up some color here, some phthalo. I like my skies just a touch violet. There's some that like to I lived along the coast for 30 years and stuff, but there's a lot that people that like to add a little yellow to them sometimes to make that, a little bit warmer and stuff to it, and you can do that. We used to get a lot of fog, and that helps, so you could add a tiny bit of yellow, which all this will help gray this out. But the big thing that we have to do here, and I think I'll just add some white this way so I don't use up all of my white, so I'll just squirt out some white. I want to really lighten up the color on the horizon line here, and up to around an 8 or a 9, somewhere in there. And doesn't have to be this light, it depends on the time of the day. But so I'm going to lighten this up quite a bit. So we'll leave that right there. We'll pull a little bit more off to the side here, lighten that up just a touch more. I want to get that value 8 or 9, that real light color here. And so a little bit lighter, and here we go, right about in there. Let's start right in there and see where we are. And we can always go lighter. Now, you can also, since you're on white background, you could also thin out, and get some transparency. I'm going to take an old brush, and I'm going to add some extender, and I'm going to thin this out. Now, putting on the sky thin is important. We want the sky thin because we want to be able to paint clouds. And so we want to manipulate the clouds. And the clouds, it's a thin, thick thing. So we put the sky on here. So I'll come in here. First, I'll just block some of this in here. We're going to put the sky on thin so that the clouds will have power, so I can manipulate the clouds. That is just like on the rose that I showed you. We put the base of the rose in thin, and then as we built the petals and stuff, we thickened up the colors so we can draw them with no problem. Now, this is where I'm just going to come down along the edge like this and pull along the side. And again, you could use your edging if you want to get a perfect line. But I'm going to blend. I'm going to distort this in just a minute. So. And I don't like to do big long, here I am doing big long strokes. I don't necessarily like big long strokes. I like short, choppy strokes like this because it adds more interest. And as I get going into the sky, so you can see that's a perfect little sky, and I don't want that. So I like to vary the colors. So I'm going to add a little bit of my medium white, a little bit of my yellow right over here. And I want to vary this blues across here, and especially right along that horizon line there, and vary the color. Short, choppy little strokes, vary the color, pull it down a bit, right? So I've got some other colors and stuff happening in there. Now, what I'm going to do, and there's a lot of ways to do it. Sometimes if I'm painting really impressionistic, I'll take my knife like this and run it right on the edge and blur. See how I'm softening out that edge right there like that? See how it's blurring the edge. So you don't see it as sharp over here like that. And you can see on the knife the blurry edge. Sometimes I'll wiggle up and down a little bit just to blur it a little bit more to give, and that gives a nice softness to the horizon line there. Slight difference to it. And that's up to you. And if you don't want to do that, you can always go back with your brush and clean it up a little bit, or pull one long one here like this towards the end. The knife is fantastic. I used to always call this burnishing of the colors, but see, now the line itself is quite a bit softer there. So there's just all kinds of fun ways to do it. Let's add a little more blue and a little more violet. As the sky goes up, it tends to get just a touch more violet. So let's take our blue over a little bit more violet. Let's add some Phthalo Blue extender, a little bit of violet. Let's get the darker colors up here. A little bit darker, nice movement into that, right? Now what I'll do is touch into this, maybe even grab some of this medium blue into that I made into my blues, and just work that through. And again, you could also do your knife. This is called burnishing flat with a knife. So you can come through here like this and start working the sky together, which I like to do this sometimes as well. It works really well because it leaves the atmosphere into the sky. And that's what I like. So sometimes I'll come in and just manipulate the colors like this. And if you want it really soft, wipe your brush like this and just kind of very light pull through here. But what you get is what we call the atmosphere. See all of the movements and stuff that you get up through here, through this sky. That creates the atmosphere, okay? So we're going to do some simple clouds, not like real big rain clouds. You've seen me on other videos doing that because we want to keep it kind of simple. So what I'm going to do is, down here is I have my medium white. Now, my medium white is a nice warm color. If I want to gray this off, so here I have some blue, any kind of blue and a little bit of burnt sienna will make a beautiful gray color. That's just wonderful into the sky and into clouds and stuff. A little more burnt sienna. Phthalo blue is really powerful. If you're using ultramarine blue, you use a lot less. But this makes beautiful grays. See the grays that you can get, and this makes lovely grays for your clouds. Maybe a little more violet in that if I want to have it just a touch more violet here. That's just really pretty there. That's a beautiful color. So that I could use that as a shadow. I like this as a nice warm base for clouds. So I'll push this down now, and I'll thin this out just a little bit. So it's a little bit thicker, has just a touch of extender medium, but it's a little bit thicker than what the background is here, because the background here is wet and it's very thin. You can see I can leave a mark here because it is that thin. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to start adding my clouds. See, and see how wispy they get here? It slides right in. So I take my knife with my nice full color, and wherever I want that cloud to be a little thicker, that's where I start. And I'll push it just ever so lightly so that the color comes off my knife. And then when I push hard, I smooth it out, blend it down, what I call burnish the color into the sky here. So we'll start with a little bit of this. Let's put a little gray in here too, just for some interest here. See, a little bit of gray. And, you know, depending on the time of the day, that will really affect your clouds, the colors and stuff of your clouds. So, and how thick the clouds are and stuff like that. Let's get a little bit more violet. Let's go a little darker here. A little more violet color to this. And get some of this gray, so it's a little bit more violet. Let's push some of that right up in here. So we'll get, we're going to create some different colored clouds. But you can see I can push my knife, and you can see the clouds stick. You see, the clouds stick because they're slightly thicker than this blue. That's the important part, right? They're slightly thicker than the blue. Then I can take my knife and just hold it on flat, and sometimes, and be prepared to wipe it off sometimes, because, you know, you have to do that to get that smoothness to it. And just pull that across here. I want to have a few, let's go back to the medium white, maybe a little bit of that gray just a little bit of idea of some of these over here, right? If I get too much, I can smooth it out, or I can take my brush here like this and just whisper it out, right? If you want to create clouds that are like moving across the sky, you know, I'll take my brush like this and just pull down. Now see, it'll blur some of that. And or if you're going to create rain, you've seen me create rain and stuff by pulling down. This creates a softer, more median movement through some of those clouds, but you're getting just a little bit. Now, I want to start building some of these clouds up a little bit more. And let's take some of this. Let's just take some of this gray, some of this beautiful violet and gray. Let's take it a little closer down in here towards the shore. I mean, towards the ocean down there. So I'll push that down right in there, and I'll just move that, manipulate that right across. And I'm going to keep it a little smoother, so I'll just pull right across that edge there, just like that a couple of times. And so now I got a bit of that gray down in there, and you can use your finger to help blur that line just slightly like that, so you get a little more depth. But now I got all kinds of subtle colors happening in here, so let's keep it going. Now, let's go slightly lighter. So I'm going to use just my regular white for right now. I'll come in here with some of my medium white, maybe a bit of the gray, just model this up. And let's pick the front edge, leading edge of the cloud. So let's say light's going to come in this way. And so we'll push the leading edge of the cloud here. Light pressure, barely touch the surface. Let the colors come off, okay? Just let what happens happen. You have a certain amount of control, but not a lot of control, okay? Let what happens happens. Let's build the softer leading edge, but this is thicker. The white is just right out of the tube. Now, every other color, I added a little bit of the extender. So this is all thin, but see this kind of skipping that happens. That's thick color over thin color, okay? So we'll pick some of that up. Let's push some of that maybe right up in here. Boom, right like that, okay? And this is what I look for, some of this kind of modeling. Now see, I can come back over it again, and as I come back over, I'm starting to do what I call burnish that color into the blue, and it makes it a little softer. I like high stratus clouds. I love that. You've seen me paint that in my desert scenes and stuff like that. But you know, it looks really good. Let's push maybe a bit bigger right in here, a bit more, some of that yellow, and all of that comes in softer. Now, you can continue to burnish with the knife if you want to make this completely a knife painting. If you're not sure, I always say soften it. So I'll just pinch wipe my brush here. It has a little bit of that blue in, and I'll just pull through a couple of times here, back like this, to just blur that cloud right into my painting there, right? And so I get a nice look to that cloud. Now, I can continue to build with the white, but at a certain amount of time, the white is not going to stick as well. So what I do, just like with the rose, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to add some more white, and to this white here, white and gray and stuff color that I have here, I'm now going to reach and grab the thickening agent, which we'll use this quite a bit in the painting today. But this is the thickener. So I'm going to reach right in and I'm going to grab, and it takes just a little bit, guys. It takes just a little bit. I'll add this thickener right to this white, and you can see it happening as I mix it up. You have to whip it up really well. Tap it and whip it up, and you see the white is becoming quite a bit thicker. The more I use on this, I don't want to add any more. But you can see the difference here between the white. This one is thicker than this one. And it's a matter of kind of going through and feeling what you like. I like the thicker, so I'm going to put this thicker on. You can see it's quite thick on the palette, see? And I will use light pressure, and I want to build an even thicker cloud up here. Now you can see this cloud. See, I can get the striations and stuff, and you can see I'm actually manipulating really thick paint onto the surface. And it's pressure. It's pressure and the flatness of your knife. So I'll flatten this out a bit. Let's maybe put a leading edge right up here. That would be kind of pretty. But you see this little movement? That comes from the thickness of the paint. Now, I can soften that. I can come in here, add a little bit of gray in there underneath that, lift that up a bit there if I want, or soften it or take it out. I can just run my finger right there and blur some of that out. I like to do that. Blur the edge. The edges will blur out really easy because this white is quite a bit thicker here. So we'll do that just like that. Had a little fly that was just, he just all of a sudden came out of nowhere. I don't know where he's come from because it's 29 degrees outside. Maybe he came in where it wants to be warm. But so I'll add a bit more right up here. Let's just pull some of this right across there. We'll build it up a little lighter up here in the front. Now you can see, here's my white. I'm not quite pure white, right? I'm not quite pure white. I like to build them slowly, but I'm not quite pure white. So let's just build that right there. And now I'm going to take some of this off. I'm just going to pull back like this and take some of it off, that edge. Wipe my brush. Let's just smear this out here just a bit, right like there. Okay, and let's pull this down just a bit. There's real thick paint there, so my brush is barely touching the surface, just to smear it off a little bit. And then I'll come back and build it again. Maybe we'll add a little more white to this, and that will help. This thickening agent is still there. See how it makes it thicker? So we still have it there. And let's just pull in some more light, some thickness. Maybe we can, you see me on other videos, I burnish it like this. I show you how to paint all kinds of other looks to your clouds. I can burnish it like that to give that other little look to a cloud right there. I can build it up. I like softer edge clouds unless it's a nice stormy day. I like the softer edge to the cloud there. But I love it to be a painting. So I know it's kind of hard to see right there, but I love that nice softness. Now, you have a lot of horizontals here. So you could also, there's some ways in which I build clouds more vertical. If I have a lot of horizontals in a painting, I will build some clouds more vertical to break the horizontal line, to give interest and stuff like that. So you can see immediately, that gives a little different look to the cloud. This is all stuff that you can decide how you like to do it. We're all different artists. There's no right or wrong here. It's what you like, right? So I'm going to build a little more. Use some of my last whites up here, or that softer white here. Burnish that in a little bit. Right like that. Pull that down. Let's pull a little bit vertical. That'll give some vertical lines to some of this as well. And see, it's just beautiful to slide that along and make that nice softness. Let's thicken up a little bit more. Whoops, wrong one. You could also use the open medium, which is a little bit thicker. I've showed you that. But the most important thing, guys, is thin thick, right? So I'll put a little bit of that thickener right there. Let's get a bit more white, bit of the medium white, bit of this kind of gray in here. And I'm going to need to get out more white. But you can see this really thick. See that? See how thick that is? That's a little too thick. Have a little too much thickener. So I'll add more paint. We'll add a little bit of this to it as well. But that's really beautifully thick paint. And it's like very heavy toothpaste, and it sticks really well. See that? It sticks really, really well. And I can build that up a bit more. Let's put a bit more white with that. Let's pull through, maybe pull some of this down a bit here. And it just, you see, it's very controlled and it doesn't overmix really easy because the white is so much thicker. than everything else that's going on there. So I'll just soften my edge a bit. That looks pretty good for that cloud. And then I'll soften it in just a minute. I'll blur it off and soften it. Let's push a bit of that right in here. A bit of that just sometimes down along the horizon there. Let's take this. Now, sometimes if I want this softening to go even softer, I put a little extender in my brush. That just makes the brush slide over the paint even more. So I'll just slide it a bit, and then I'm determining how soft my clouds are going to be here, right? So yeah, that works really well. Now, you can go in and I can wipe my knife here, and I can do what I call blur or burnish. This makes the soft edges of the cloud. So I can push back through here and make it like really almost foggy looking, you know, here, right? I'll just show you here. So I can burnish that. So I'm using the knife just really flat here and creating those lines there like that. Or if you want, you can take a smaller brush. There's that little fly here again. I think he's lonely. We can pick up and you can build more of a, if you want more of a dominant, like an edge, like a thunderhead or something like that coming in, you can tap in and build more of a line that has a perfect edge to your cloud. It's not as soft. Use the thicker paint here and just tap, round it up a bit here, right like this, round that up a bit, and look for some of the highs and lows, but round it up a bit here. Let's put a little bit more round right up here, maybe right up here in the front. I'll show you. So I can make the leading edge, the building edge of this cloud here, right in here. Just tap it. You could do that with the knife as well, but sometimes I like to do this. Just get that like it's moving across the sky there, like that. So let's put one little edge right up here maybe. And so you could, I like layers of indistinct clouds, softer clouds back there, maybe a little bit of it back there, see? That's up to you, you know, it's beautiful, it's up to you, you know, look at all kinds of photos of clouds, but so you can see you can get the softer, more round edge up there and build this up. You can, you know, we can build this up a little lighter because I still have yet to go to white. I'm not quite white, but you see all the different layers of the clouds. And if you want to make it look like rain or it's a little stormy or something like that, you pull down, right? That's where you get some of that, you pull some of that movement down, those vertical movements here like this, and that's where you give, you know, and it's nice on, especially on some, you know, some of these scenes, some of these seascapes and stuff that, you know, you pull some down sometimes and gives that nice kind of look of it pulling down as well. So you can get all kinds of looks, and you know, it's only, you're only limited by your imagination. You know, go out there and get yourself lots of reference photos, put them all up, and then you know, attack your painting. Let's put out a little more white here. Now we'll switch down to the beach, and we'll talk about thin and thick and stuff as we paint our beach and our water. First, let's get a little bit of the blues. I'm just going to model this right into here. I'll take my ocean a bit more violet, and here, blue, violet, some extender. Like the sky, I'm going to start this in here a little bit thinner, right? We'll start in a little bit thinner. Let's carry our beach in here at this angle here. And again, I can come up here and blur that edge. I can make that edge here. I like the back here. Sometimes, you know, some paintings I make very light. Some paintings I'll make it a little darker like that and pull through, pull down the edge. I like the mottled look of the ocean. Let's go a little bit darker. That gives you some nice contrast. back here. So a little bit darker here. Right in there like that. Here, that's pretty good. We'll put some dark movement here. Right like that. That's kind of pretty. That's nice. And again, if you want it softer, if you want something like that softer, you can, like I showed you before, you can take even your knife, just like this. Let's get rid of some of that light off of the knife, make sure it's clean. And I can hold the knife here like this and blur that off slightly here, just like that, which works nice. I can take this and I can, some of this wet, and I can pull down the edges here. Don't worry about that blue here. A second, I'll show you. Pull down the edges and really blur this off. Let's really blur this off, right? And then you go, oh, what do you do about that edge? Well, let me show you. Take a clean brush here with just a little tiny bit of water in it and pull right along the surface here. And what you do is you start to remove that excess blue here. And you want a little bit of it. We want a little bit of it there to give us our interest. But we're looking for depth and blurring this. So I'll go back and forth a little bit, and I'll slowly blur the line here. And it's, so here I'm using the water as a solvent to go through that blue and blur the line. And I'll make a softer look back there to the water. And then I can wipe that brush and bring it lightly back up into the front, and that will help smooth my line. But now I got this real kind of undulation, blurry line. I can, a lot of times when I'm looking at the line, I'll take some of that watercolor, some of the color of the water here with just a bit of the whites and stuff of the thicker color that I have. And I like that running right along that edge to blur that out even more. And then I'll go back to my softer lights. The edge to me in a seascape or in a seascape or in a landscape, when I want to get that real receding edge, it's very important. So I'll manipulate the edge a lot of different ways. And you as an artist have a lot of different tools in which to do that. I'll take my big soft brush here now, take some of that all off of that, and just run that right along the side there like that. And you can see I really blur that edge off. And yeah, and I can take, let's take just a bit of our lights here into this, just a bit of the color, and we'll lift off here and see that blue of the sea going up into the sky is going to soften the depth of it as well. And I'm going to rinse that out and take my big brush here with a little water. So there's a lot, just slow down. You have a lot of things. A little bit of water is going to help me move and remove. Move it and remove it, see? So I'll move it really easy, and I can pull up and remove it. So I can move it and remove it really easy here. And I can pull back down again, manipulate that whole edge. I'm going to pull some of this all the way back down again. Back down towards the surface here. Back down. And see, I don't worry about, see, I got a little bit of blue and stuff up in there. I don't worry about it. So you can play this stuff for a long time, because all I have to do is just take a soft brush and move it through. And sometimes those other additions of those colors just add magic to your sky, right? And they do just really, really good things. So you can build up. So let's see, these are very, very soft. And I usually don't determine exactly how much I'm going to do on the clouds and stuff until I start getting my water. Because do you want this to be about clouds, or do you want this to be about water? But I'm going to add just a little bit more. Get it back up over here towards this thickness here. And let's build this up just a bit. So you can see I can still slide. I can still do nice stuff here. Build more clouds. I can build that up even lighter if I want that edge. Or I can softly burnish this, hold the knife flat and just move it in small little manipulative moves here. Just wiggle it a little bit, and you'll create some of that softer look to it there, right? Maybe up here, a little heavier. And then the more you manipulate it, the softer the clouds become. The first mark is the clouds that go in at very heavy. Let's manipulate this up and down. I love the knife. I love knife painting because it adds a certain amount of interest to the painting that you just don't get otherwise. So we'll just push that through here, right like that. Different little cloud, different look. So you can stop or continue on anywhere you are. If I got all this in here, I can just run my hand over it, and you can feel the surface. If you feel the surface here, it's getting a little bit tackier and thicker. The paint's starting to tack up and dry. It's been over 30 minutes, so the paint's going to start to dry up a bit here. And you'll notice a different feel to it. And it's a beautiful feeling to it. And, you know, how much you do, that's all up to you. I'm going to take a small brush with a little bit of water right here and just soften, just lightly soften through. So you can see I can get layers of clouds and things going on here. Let's soften this whole look. Maybe pull some of this down a little bit. And it just gives you just nice variations of looks there into the clouds. We'll build this up a bit here. So you can come back and build some softer looks up into the front here just with your brush as well, right? And blur it off here. All kinds of beautiful little looks. We could add more dark in through there, you know. If you want, you could take some of that sky color. Let's just show that. You can come back with some of the sky color like this and negative paint back. Let me show you that as well here. Negative paint back, this is what we call negative painting, where you're painting the background here out around the cloud, and you'll get a different look as well. See? And all of this has that extender in it, and it's still wet right there. So that's kind of a neat look to it as well. And I can put maybe a little bit of that back up over here, come back in underneath this cloud here, and just add a bit of that blue in there for a little bit different kind of relief there. So and then you can put more, if you know, in a lot of the videos I'll show you more stormy looks, more grays and stuff like that there. You can add that back in there. You can get some of that lovely burnt sienna back in here. We could take some of this blue up a little higher into the clouds to thin them out or make them more wispy or lighter looking. Take that blue sky back like this, walk back up into that. And this blue is very thin because I'm using it on my brush. It's very thin, so you can see I can just, it's just really a lot of fun. I do love clouds along the horizon line, so I'm going to come back and push a little misty cloud. I feel that cloud along the horizon line adds more depth to my paintings. So I do like adding those right back like that. And sometimes I'll just barely softly just blur them out just a bit like that. And I like that kind of look. So there's all kinds of looks, and that's the important part. Now, okay, let's go back up into our beach area and stuff like that. There's, in some of the paintings and stuff, you see me use this, the paint scraper. The paint scraper is just a large tool to put down a lot of information right away. And so I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna. I'll put it right here with my blues, some yellows, burnt siennas. Into beach colors, I like some violets and stuff into them as well. And so I'll grab all of this. I'm going to grab a big old dollop of white here as well, right? And I love the yellows. And the beach colors, to me, the prettiest beach colors are violets and the yellows. Those are your prettiest sand colors. And I'm going to start first like this, and then we'll add more to it. I like it to be a little thin, so generally I add when I first pull it on, I add a little bit of extender here and thin this color out. So you can see the color's thin, right? It's just a nice, beautiful gray, nice base. We'll work colors into this. I'll take it like that, right? And I'll just slide this right on like this. This is going to become the base of my beach here. And it's just work it on here like this. And so I drag it out. You'll get a, I like this because I'll get highs and lows just because of the way in which the knife manipulates it and stuff. And I like that. And I'm going to take some of this beach right up here to the front, right up in here. Now, what is a beach? A beach is long stretches, really, depending on how flat you make your beach. Right here, I'm going to make my beach really flat, so the actual water and the waves are going to go back and forth across each other quite a bit. So this out here is just about dry right now. So I'll add that back in just a second. I'm going to take some of this, though, and pull it right up into the water. And we'll pull some of this off to the side here. You can scrape it to thin it out. You can, just manipulate it, keep it. And I like to, not get it too even, right? Now, let's just take some of the water, the color of the water we made over here. A little violets, little whites here. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to do this several times. And so it's just a color here. Let's grab a little more white right here and let's pull it this way, right? Zoom like this. This is that violet, that lighter color that I want. I'm going to pull this into the water as well. Over here, that water is dry. You see it not mixing really well. And I don't need it to yet. But here, I'm just going to cross. What I'm looking for when I do this is a crossing of my colors. I want the beach out into the water out into the beach. That's what's going to make it softer when I finally go to paint it here. It's going to give me the look of shallow water. Is the two crossing over each other, right? Now, you can soften that all with a knife. A good, knife painter wouldn't worry about it. But if it bothers you, you can just pull back like this and start to soften this right like that. Just back and forth a little bit. And you can see you soften those color lines, those lines together, and that's what's going to create the softness that I have here. Back in the back, I'll use a smaller brush. We'll go back to a little more blue, a little bit of violet, and let's just take that right in here like that and work those two together, right like that. I'll let some of that depth go back there, but I'm going to wipe my knife, go back to my painting knife here. I'd like to take some of this and just move this back here to create the look of other waves and other things going on back here, right? We'll just push some of that, sometimes pull down here, and that'll create the look of other kind of waves and stuff. And if you get too much, let me just show you, if you get too much light, then you can always come back with dark as well, right? The dark, so don't forget you got light and dark, and how much dark you leave on that horizon line is how much it pulls forward, right? So there's a lot of ways, and this is what you do. Where you're going to learn the best is you take a board like this and just start practicing. It's just a board, just practice. If it doesn't work, take some water, wipe it off, and pull it back again. Just start practicing the back and forth until you can start seeing some of the movements and start to understand the movements and stuff of the colors. Now, as I get color thicker, this is a little thicker over here, it sticks more, and that's what's going to give me a lot of the interest and stuff that I want. So here I started the beach back and forth. Let's take a little light sand. Now this is also a beautiful sand color, the medium white. Add just a touch of the violet to it. maybe a bit more yellow into it. These are beautiful sand colors. So the medium white is a beautiful color as a base for this. And let's just push this right back here. I'll put another little clump of it that's a little thicker so it sticks, right? It's a little high, but we're going to we'll put something right on that. Let's pull this back and forth, and this is what I like to, this is where I like to manipulate the sand and stuff with it. Now, and then I burnish this like this. Now there are some knife painters, you would take this, hold this thing flat like this and draw it across, and that helps you soften it out as well. But I'm going to burnish this flat with my finger out along this edge because I want this sand to show up out here as well, right? And then I can always do this, pull back, and really give it that thin look. Make sure your hand is somewhat clean here, and pull back and give it that high and low. And where you get this real high and low is this sand that I'm applying is a little thicker, right? But see, doesn't this pretty? So it's a little thicker color here. And I'll push that and lay that just lightly on top of the surface here. And then if I push hard, I can start to blend it in. And this is where I like that choppiness. And that comes from thicker paint. When you get that choppiness, that's thicker paint. And I'll wipe and I'll blur into and blend into it here. Work and manipulate those together. And sometimes I'll take a little bit of a damp brush and work those together. A little damp brush here and work those together. And see, if I don't wipe my brush, I pick up some of that color. And sometimes I let that happen. So that blue came all the way there. And now look at the soft beach that you're starting to create here. Let's get a little more light, maybe a bit more yellow. Let's work some of this right down in through here. And so I'll pull it across, and it's a little thicker, so it works really well in there, right? Get little highs and lows, and this is what I'm looking for, is these highs and lows. And you can do that also with a bigger knife and push flat. And see, if I push flat, see how it smashes it down and blends it out, see? So I can start watching that. Wipe your knife, push it down flat, and pull like that, and you blend it out, see? So knife painting is really great for doing that. So, you know, one of the things I like if you're doing knife, so I put the color on thicker. So I'll grab some of this. I haven't added the thickening agent to it yet, but a little yellow. Let's even add a little white this time, right? And I'll pull this down. Let's pull a light line here, boom, of sand. And I like this, the highs and lows. And sometimes you have to build this up 3, 4, 5 times, right? So I'll build that up. Let's build some of this right up in here too, as it's coming towards us there, right? Then you take your big knife and you make sure it's kind of clean. You hold flat. I even push it flat, hard. And that's what blends it out. See, boom. Let's wipe that off because we got that light color on there. Let's come back here, push it flat, pull it across, and you get that other look to it, see? It's a beautiful look. And it's just that this is a little thicker in here. And, you know, the initial base is a little thin, right? There's that little thing I have to kind of jump up over. But see how that just gives a beautiful look to it all here, right? There's just all kinds of ways, and acrylic painters, I like it because we have all kinds of ways, because we can let this dry up and this will go softer. So I use the big knife here this time as a blending here to blend those colors, to manipulate those colors and move that through. Now I'm creating this uber soft beach. I can pull some darks further out and across like this. And if I want to have a nice soft look to it, you know, I can do that, you know. So there's just so much. So now you got a nice little softness there. Let's, we're going to continue to add more to that beach. But, you know, sometimes to get more interest to the beach, I might take a little yellow a little bit of violet, just some nice colors like this, and just push that right in here, just some of that other color. Now sometimes I'll use this knife and burnish it out like this as well, you know, so that does it. Sometimes I use the big one, you know, if I want that light to pull back into it, I wipe my knife and I start here and I pull that way. If I want that out wider, I pull that way, but I'll pull back this way and soften that right into the color. Right into the line. Let's go a little bit more yellow. Let's get some of that right up in here. Just streaks of it. So you get highs and lows of different colors, right? And maybe with that streak, if I want it really wide and soft, I'll just pull flat and pull across, and now I got just little marks of those yellows in there. Let's just pull that flat right across like that. So now I got all this beautiful highs and lows and yellows and all that other kinds of stuff happening. Isn't that kind of fun? And it actually, you know, when this starts to get sticky, that works really well. And at any time, if it gets too sticky, you can take a mister bottle, and I've showed you that before. Just mist the surface, let it sit for a second, and then you can come back and do that. Do it even more. So that works really well. But let's just add some simple burnt sienna and green, burnt sienna, green, maybe a bit of the yellows and stuff in here. Burnt sienna, green, some nice darks, chunky kind of, we'll put some chunky little idea of bushes and stuff here. I want them kind of thin up at the top here. You can do a nice distance beach like what I was doing there. It looked more like a nice distance to the beach. You can do that. I'm just going to add, and I'll add this out a little bit here. Maybe give the idea that there's a farther away one there. Now, how do you make that one farther away? Well, you blur it out. You blur out those edges here, blur those out, and you'll make the idea here that that one's further away. And we can even put in like a little line of our beach here, pull back this way, here, right back like that. And we'll separate the two. So, you know, so as I make something here a little bit, we'll put some of that sand color in, and I pull back like that. I'm looking at a little tiny beach back behind here. We'll lighten up with a touch of our medium white here. Let's just pull a line right here, a medium white line. Blur it, blur that line. And that's what's going to create the depth, right? So one way back there, and then I'll come up in front right here and build this one up. Got a little bit of medium white in there. Didn't want to do that. So we'll cover that up a bit. Here, we'll get a more chunky. If you get too much on there or something like that, like I kind of made a little bit of a mistake there. It's not a mistake, it's just a little accident. I'll just pull back like this and scrape it back off. And, you know, and what I like, this is what I like about the boards, and is that it leaves a halo of the previous color there. So, and I'm just going to step off to the side here with a little heavier color, because I want that darker edge to come up front here. There we go. I want that darker little edge to come up front. But it leaves that little halo, which gives you depth and stuff to it. So, yeah, there we go. Sometimes I use my paper towel, which is what I like, and I'll pull back like that and give that nice blurry edge to it. And just grab a bit of dark, maybe even a bit of blue into that. That'll make that even darker. I like some of that contrast, and the blue will carry some of the look of the water and stuff up there. So it's a little bit more edge there. We'll pull that across, right? So now you got a distant beach. This one comes up more forward. A few little lights there. Let's take some light sand, some of the yellows, some of the medium whites. Let's just drag that right across here, right across the front. Here, give a little bit of broken line. That gives a nice look to it. maybe a bit of white in that yellow, bit of the violets and stuff into that. We'll pull out and pull across, right like that, to create that bit of beach look there. Right now I'm starting to push and lay on. I'm working thicker color here as I build the beach. So I got my base of my colors here. Now I'm working a bit heavier, and where I want the viewer to come up here and see a bit up in here, right? And this is, if you want it, again, you want this super soft, just pull like this, set it down flat, and pull across, and you soften that whole look of that beach. See? So wipe your knife. Don't touch it without wiping your knife. Pull like this, set it flat, and pull across, just like that. And some of those strong horizontals really help you set that beach. Out here into the water, I want it softer. Now I can burnish that in. But if you want it really soft, just take your brush with a little water like this and just pull that edge. And you'll soften that right out into the edge of the water. Does that make sense? So now as I'm coming in with my light colors, building the beach, this is where I'm going to take some of my white, my medium white. Sometimes this is where I like to thicken it up. So I'm going to thicken this just a bit. Just add a touch of that thickener right there. It only takes a whisper. So really you buy this thing once your entire painting career, but depends on how much thick paint you like to work with. I like to work quite a bit with it, but let's grab some of that, right? Let's come right in here. I want the feel of the beach right in here. Boom, I want the viewer's eye right in here, right? So that's going to give me a good look to this beach. Let's put a little heavier. You can push a little line of water in there. I've done that on other seascapes with you. But see, it's thicker now, right? And then how do you soften it? I could soften that with a brush, like I showed you up in the sky, but that makes it, the sky is really soft. But if I use a knife like this as a burnishing tool, hold it very flat, pull across, here, I get that beautiful highs and lows of all those colors, see? Here, pulling this across, boom, right like that. And I get the feel of the beach itself, right? And if something like this doesn't move, it's really thick right here, it does move. But if it doesn't move as easy as you want it, I'm kind of want to leave it, but I'll show you. You can always just come back. Let's even take our big brush here, clean it out. Unless you want to carry dirty color, which I do all the time. Pinch wipe some of that water out of there and just pull through. Now you can pull up and down to give a reflection through the water right there, but that'll pull in any kind of dirty little blending here. You're kind of softening and blending those colors together, see? So you're creating all of that line. So even after this is dried slightly with the Heritage, you can do this with Heritage for a couple hours. You can blend it out softly like that and get that nice distance. Does that make sense? So I really like that. I might pick up a bit more white, a bit more beach here. Let's get even a bit more, and maybe leave this more chunky right in here, right in there. Pull that viewer's eye right here. Sometimes I'll just use my paper towel real quick and give a nice look to it as well. Here, if I want to make it look like it's, you know, a lot of people have walked on the beach or there's a lot going on, I'll do that. But it just makes it a little bit more highs and lows and differences of the colors and stuff. And I can come back and say with this nice thick little area here, I can come back and add touches of yellow in there. I love to do that. Look for touches of color. Yellow, I can pull back at a slight angle to create shadows, interests of shadows and lights. I like blurry stuff like that the water's coming farther forward, you know, so I like that kind of look to it too. There's thousands of ways that makes beautiful water, right? Okay, so now let's come up into here, up into the front here. Let me just take a paper towel with just a little bit of water, take out some of this right over here so I have a nice cleaner area to work with. And knock the camera so it wiggles a little for you. So let's come in here and let's get just a touch of a nice blue-green in here. Phthalo blue and a little bit of the yellow makes a nice pretty little blue-green. Let's get some of that color in. I haven't used that in a while in some of my waters. So let's add a bit of that right in there. And it'll take off or bring in some of that other color there. Let's just add a bit of that in there. Just going to go up along the wave line. Just like right in there like that. Let's just add a bit of that because it's a little different. And then we'll come in, and I might need some more white. I'll put my waves on in a couple of different ways. But I'll eventually put the thickness of the wave on. But I'll take a little white and a little bit of the blue here, and I'll model it up like that so it's not perfect. So you see it like that on the knife, right? And that's what I want to come in here and just drag and push some of this. As it runs off, I'll go further into the back. As that runs off, I'll go further into the back, but I'll push this around. And you see, you get this little granulation here when your color is thicker, right? So we'll pull this and thin this out here like it's gonna, because I had a question is how do you create that foamy water? So we'll create that here with you. I'll wipe this, and I'm just gonna pull across here. I'll show you the foamy water. I got to put in the impression of the foamy water. And it's really good. This is also a really good way to do that, to get some of that water and that beach crossing over each other again, which is what I like to do. I like to blur those like that so I get that water and the beach crossing over a little bit. Let's cross that over a bit. Anything that's back here, like I didn't wipe my knife, and you see I picked up and pushed yellow over there, the beach color, I go, whoops. And you don't worry about it. What I'm going to do is, I'm not even going to take all of it out. I'm going to thin it out. And so it looks like there's a bit of it in there, just with some water, right? So I can pull back this way and lift some of that extra color off of there and create great lines. So I use that water and the brush, and I'm constantly wiping, and I'm just going to create some lines here, some movement lines right like that. I just think that I love the impressionism of it. So if I'm really going to be an impressionist, I would leave that like that, right? And it works really, really well. Let's put some of the lighter. Let's go up lighter. A little bit of open medium works well too, because it causes it to slide. It keeps the color thicker, causes it to slide. You can use the medium white in it if you want a little softness or beach color to it. And let's just slide this right along the front here. So you see this granulation here that tells me as I'm sliding along the surface that my colors are a little thicker. That's where the thickness of your colors come from, right? And then I can take my big soft brush, a little bit of water if I want, and I can just blur this together, boom, like that, right? I'll pull back this way, which a nice clean side of my brush, pull back this way to take the beach and the water together right there like that. I'm looking at what I want. I want to soften this, right? I want to soften this. Sometimes I like to pull down, which gives you that vertical like this, so you get this different look to it, see? And you get this kind of blurry, reflective look to it. And then you can take your 3/4 inch brush, like we did before. If I decide, ooh, I like that, but let's take some of that off. And I'll just pinch wipe a little bit of water in my brush and pinch wipe and pull back like this to get those, like wave lines and other kinds of lines in there that wasn't really supposed to be, but I like that. I like that little bit of green there, so I'm going to pull that back and pull some of that green forward right there. I love that. That is really nice. And these are so much fun to paint like this, guys, just to practice, right? So look at all that. I mean, it's just the highs and lows and The thing that makes seascapes and everything like that the prettiest is you get those highs and lows and stuff, and it's not rhythmic. It's not repetitious, right? You want to keep it, you know, kind of loose and stuff. So let's come in. Let's thicken up now. So we had some thicker white right here. Let me open this back up. A little bit of the blue, a little bit of the white. We'll thicken this back up again right here. Right in here. We'll just boom, 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 boom. Tap it. You can see it already getting thick, right? And I'll show you this, and you can thin it out. You can do whatever you want, but I like to thicken up now. I'll tap. We'll make quite a bit of this, actually, here. As we look at this, we'll tap this, and I like other colors to be in it, you know, to model it up. And I'm going to start right in, like maybe right in here, and push in a wave. Maybe this is going to be the line of a wave here. Okay, so you can kind of push it and curl it. You can wipe your brush like this and push up into it and push and pull that up and in to create that wavy line. I'm not going to make big rollers here, but you know, you want to create some different ones. You don't want to just outline the entire beach here with a wave. So I want to take some of that off right there. So I'll roll and I can lift off, or I can pull out slightly and pull the wave out this way, right? Or just smear that around a little bit. You know, I can just, that's too much of an even, so I'll just tap around a bit and create this other little wave like that, right? Here, you can tap into a little bit more white and just add the light little sparkles of that wave, especially right along the top of it there, right? Just let's pull that down so you can break that edge, pull that down like that so it's coming in. And those are kind of fun. Let's add a little green to this, not quite as much white, and let's add another little, maybe one starting up right back there, right? Little bit of broken color in there. A little bit of white water back here. We can add a little idea of a white water on a wave there, right? A little bit right here pulling out. Maybe some of that white water right there. Now I'm going to take this lighter color here, and if I really want to make that foamy kind of look, I'm just lightly going to pull this across the top here, right like that, right? That lightly foamy type of look, and then take a damp brush. Now you can, again, pull that with the knife, but the thing about the knife is it'll burnish it down and blend it. If I just want to soften the edges, I'll just use the soft brush like this, and I'll leave some of that high and low of the water there, and it makes it look more foamy right there like that. Let's create a little bit of that up here as well. Some of that foamy look of the water right in there. And you're never going to be able to copy what I do because our hands are different. Just make a nice look, right? But our hands are different, and you're not going to be able to copy it. So then we'll soften that out. We'll pull and soften that just a bit here. There, like that, right? And so, you know, you can create, if I want more foaminess here, and I can take off some of this. Let's just take some of that off, so it's not quite as heavy, and just add light little foamy edges here, see? So just a little bit. You're in control. Just a little bit like that. You can add little foamy, and you can tap to create it more bubbly and stuff if you want. You know, that's up to you. You know, there's just 100 different ways to do it here. And so I like to pull back and forth to put the movement of the waves in there sometimes, right? And then I'll take this on edge, knife on edge, a nice thin line of this knife on edge like this, and I'll push the edge of the wave in sometimes. Sometimes I'll drag it out really thin here, right like that. So, and there's some artists that put a small shadow underneath the edge. I'll show you, you could take a little bit of beach color here, right? And any kind of the beach color, and you run right along the edge. Let's go a little darker, a little more burnt sienna. And you can put a little shadow underneath that edge of that water if you want. Some artists do that. Some artists, say, I kind of like the water and the beach kind of flowing together. That's more impressionistic, so I kind of like to do that. But let's take a bit more white, and we'll take this just on the edge here, and I'll make some highs and lows here, and I'll push back and forth. I like the water and the beach to flow together, so you can't really see how thick that water is, and I'll burnish it down. This is the look I really like to give the beach here, where they flow together here. So I'll pick up some of that, get some thick of the colors, maybe right in here, a little bit more of a line to that water, that edge right there. So I'll leave that here like that. Here we go. See that I love that. And so I've got a secondary little line right here. I'll put maybe a bit more of a mark of some water right there, right? Yeah, it's really pretty. And so this white is thicker, so it sticks up on top, and I can almost draw with it, right? So yeah. And so you can get some nice, beautiful colors there. You can put some more foamy stuff through there. I can take a slightly darker, a little bit darker here, and just break up back here a bit if I want to get a touch more interest to that water. The more you add back there, the rougher the ocean's going to become. So be a little careful. Let's just take some soft stuff right up here, right up into that area here. That's all we need. A little bit of that. Let's put a touch of our darks right here. It really helps that come forward here. There we go. So you get some of that interest. Now you can go back after you've put all of this on. Maybe you want to go back up here. Let's take some of even this blue and this white and come back up here and add more to your clouds. And you can spin and burnish those in. Sometimes if it's really, really dry, I will go up there and put some extender across the surface first and build it that way. You can do that. So you can put some extender on it. If you put extender on it, let me put some on and show you. Got a little blue in it, but that's okay. If you put extender on, because this starts to dry up here, it's still wet up here. Still, you can see it's still wet. And I put that on at the beginning of the painting, but I used a lot of extender. But the extender will cause anything that you do here to slide around a little bit more. So if you wanted to put a little bit more into your clouds, just some other interest and stuff like that into the clouds, you can. Maybe a little heavier white and medium white together. And just strike that through here. Build that up. That's up to you. So I do like to go back and revisit my clouds after, pull down a bit, after I painted my waves. I like to balance the two to see, and where do I want to see? And I wanted to come right into here, and my eyes doing that. I might focus in a little more white into some areas right in here, just to give it a little more action here. Sometimes I'll just soften that out a bit here. You can lift up, take some of that out. See how I can go back to my original beach color and just lift off, or I can tap it, create that foaminess. Those colors are nice and thick. They're not going to dry right away. So, but that's how I create foamy. And you can, if you can draw it really, really easy to thick paint to just go right around and get that foaminess here. Or you can, like if I wanted to have some more variations in the beach, I do like the smoothness of that, but sometimes I'll like to take the water in this brush and like pull back like this and see how I lift it right back off, right up towards the shadow of where that water is in the beach. Maybe pull back like this to create that a little bit of a pulling line for the wave, and pull like that here. And I create that movement. See, I'm looking for the movement there of that wave. Here like that. That just makes it look pretty. Here, let's pull back like that. Pull that out a bit. Just a little water. Very much of a little water, and you'll see. And it looks exactly like it's painted in oils, okay? So there you go. Just a little over an hour in the painting of it. Not too bad. Kind of a fun but practice, and you can add more to your clouds. I might add a little cloud back there. You can build it up a little heavier or whatever, but you can see by blurring that line you get depth. I could bring it back out a little bit more if I wanted to. You can build more powerful clouds. I show you that in other videos in there. And then you can use that thicker paint to build up the front edges. You can use it to you know, get more of the foam. And like I said, if I take this real thick paint right like this, and you don't even need very much of it here, you drag that right along that surface there, you create even more of that foam. See that look? That look of the foam, it comes from super thick paint just sliding over the surface there. The super thick paint like that, that's what creates the look of the foam, see? And it just glides right over the surface there. So just like that. So see, just a little bit right here, just drag it across. And the hard and soft pressure, barely touching the surface. And that creates the foam, okay? And then you determine, you can soften it out or do whatever, or go back and forth until you find a nice look. Like maybe go right back through that again and just soften some of that out. Not all of it, just some of it there. And leave a little bit of the foam. Let's put some motion right into that. Some of the nice horizontal motion. That's coming forward. You can, it's fun. It's really, really fun. Okay, so there you go. So don't forget to subscribe down at the bottom. Don't forget to click the like on that video. That helps us out a lot. So that answers some of that thick question. Coming into the, in just about a week or so, we'll be starting the spring floral painting and stuff, and I'll show you guys also some of the thickening agent and everything as we paint some of those flowers. I think, you know, as acrylic artists, using that thin, thick, and some of those characteristics are really going to help us a lot. You know, I've been using a lot of that in the last 3-4 years in my painting, just, you know, varying those thicknesses, so we need to study that a little bit together, okay? But we're going to come into the spring painting, and going to be a little bit different palette. I'm going to teach you some color theory, some of the painting along the way, different, and we'll paint seascapes and animals and flowers and everything. But we're going to do a lot of paintings in a very short period of time, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Just concentrated studies, color theory, mixing in some of these consistencies and stuff to help you, okay? So there you go. Good board to practice. Just go grab yourself a board and practice, and keep doing it back and forth until you can get that feeling, that understanding. And you can blend, you can soften off, burnish off with the paint scraper or the brush, and they give a little different looks, okay? Hope you enjoyed it, okay? And I'll see you guys on the next one.